Very much, sir, for, amidst all your tight schedule, giving us this opportunity to sit with you and have this discussion. I really appreciate. Like I mentioned in our previous communications, you've really made my day, and this is a dream come true. So thank you for giving us this opportunity.
You're most welcome. It is my pleasure to do that, so long as it will encourage and inspire some younger generation to try to see where we've been and try to do the same things.
Thank you very much, sir.
Most welcome.
So I would like to start this way. I know the little research I did about you. You are a household name, and you were Deputy Vice Chancellor, Enugu State University of Science and Technology, Vice Chancellor, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, former Minister of Power and Steel, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and a Reverend with Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion. I mean, when people look at you, they see all this success. And what I'm trying to look at is, I know all these achievements did not just happen overnight. It took years of hard work, challenges, and all the commitments. So when younger ones or people look at you, all they see is the success. So I would like to start by letting you talk us through all what you've been through, right from your cradle to growing up, all the challenges with parenting and schooling and all of those things, so we can connect that to the success of today and have a lot of younger ones get inspired with this journey.
I would be quite glad to give you my background story, but I would like to comment on the fact that after my tenure as Deputy Vice Chancellor of the Enugu State University of Science and Technology, I became the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria Nsukka. I completed my tenure there, and then was also appointed the Pioneer Vice Chancellor of Federal University, Ekiti.
Wow.
When 9 new universities were created under the leadership of President Goodluck Jonathan. And it was while I was at Ekiti as Vice Chancellor that I was then appointed the Minister of Power, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Throughout all these times, I've been serving as a non-stipendiary priest within the Anglican Church, Anglican Communion. And actually, when I was at Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria Nsukka, I was already a venerable or an Archdeacon, as they would say. Later, when I completed my tenure at UNN before going to Ekiti as Vice Chancellor again, before now becoming Federal Minister of Power, at the end of that, I came back to serve the church, even though I remained as a consultant engineer. I was working as an engineer, trying to set up things here and there. And while there, I served at the church and became the provost of the Cathedral Church of St. Cyprian in Enugu town here. So it was when I just retired from that, and I was just jubilating with my darling wife of several decades now, that we paid our dues and we were now ready to rest from our hard labor. I was then appointed Vice Chancellor, University on the Niger. So in the history of our country, Nigeria, nobody has been Vice Chancellor 3 times.
Wow.
I'm the first one to get to that point of being a Vice Chancellor 3 times in a lifetime. So it's all to the glory of God.
Absolutely.
So that's how it is. Now, I wasn't born with silver spoon in my mouth. And many people would think, well, he had everything.
Exactly.
And you just coasted along and became one. No way. It was really bad for me because my parents actually were middle class. And I would say when I was born, I would say we were lower middle class. But by the time I got into secondary school and so on, I would say we were middle class, not even upper middle class. So there is nothing to say that I was born with silver spoon in my mouth. No. And when I was born, I, started growing up and my parents discovered that I was very susceptible, a very vulnerable little child physically and medically. I had some infantile ailments that made me easily predisposed to all kinds of ailments. And it used to be a joke in those days that if there was anything epidemic that came into town, people would ask, has that neighbor boy gotten it? If he has gotten it, then it's come to town. But if he hadn't gotten it, then it hasn't come to town at all. And
Interesting.
my father gave me the nickname Half Man.
Hmm.
They never believed that I would grow up that I would live long enough to become an
Oh,
adult. And you are aware, but maybe our audience might not be aware. This phenomenon they call Obanje,
oh,
people who
okay.
are born and they felt I might be an Obanje because I
Hmm.
was too sickly. The hospital was my second home. So every time I was in the hospital, and I was also prone to accidents, I would go and play with my classmates and so on. If anybody was injured by broken bottles or nails, I would be the one. And if barbed wire caught anybody and tore his clothes, I would be the one. So it's like I didn't have a very rosy childhood. I loved playing when I was a child. But one thing I would always give God thanks for is that I was very highly motivated from when I was very young. I wanted to excel in everything I did.
Hmm.
And God helped me. And that was one of the things that was my backbone. Being so sickly and missing school a lot, I had to study more than others in order to catch up. At the end of the day, by the grace of God, I did very well in school, being very highly motivated. There was once I was third in class because of illness, and I didn't go home because I felt I didn't deserve to return to my parents' home.
Was that
It was
in secondary school
no
or primary?
primary
Okay,
school,
primary school.
primary school.
Okay.
So, but eventually, I was able to complete primary school, but not without a major accident. On October the 25th, 1962, I had a ghastly accident. I was in, top pupil in the class. So my father got me a fountain pen
Interesting.
as
A
a
gift.
gift. But by then, we are not allowed to use fountain pens. We
Oh,
use what they call pen holders. You will take the pen, dip it in the ink, and be writing with it. And when the ink finishes, you dip it again. But fountain pens, we had two. One was suction by rubber, that creates vacuum and then you release it, it will suck in the ink. The other one was what they call injection, like a
okay.
syringe. So my father, not knowing that we had not gotten to this stage,
Level.
no,
Okay.
now bought me a fountain pen. And my teacher now saw that Chinedu, who didn't used to write very well, my handwriting wasn't very good. How come I could write like that? So he now saw that I used a fountain pen. I
Pen.
didn't know it was an offense. And he threw it. I thought it went directly into the ceiling. So at the end of the school, I called my classmates and we got about three teachers' tables and a kind of ladder
Okay.
to now climb into the roof ceiling. You know, I didn't know it
Search
would be
of the.
totally dark to
Okay.
look for it.
Hmm.
I felt maybe it would shine a little bit because the nib was like what we used to call platinum nib in those days. When I got there, I didn't know that the ceiling was just ordinary cardboard.
Oh.
And because I had stepped onto a beam, I didn't realize that I couldn't step further. It was then when I then stepped further, I didn't know anything again. The last thing was I crashed, landed on the hard concrete floor with my head. That's why this depression on my head, even though I'm an adult now, it hasn't completely come up. But I used to be known as the boy with the valley in his head after that accident. So it was a traumatic experience for me. And after that fall, the other kids started shouting, Chinedu is dead, Chinedu is dead, Chinedu is dead. Somehow adults now came and they carried me. I don't remember how they carried me to the hospital in Kafanchan. That was Holy Trinity School, Kafanchan. Kaduna State, yes. Okay. That's where I was born, by the way. But we were transferred from there to Ibadan and then back to Kafanchan. It was like a second missionary journey that my father did from working with the railways there. So when my parents were told that I had died, they said he fell from a towering, building and crashed his skull, that the blood had drenched even people carrying me, blood was all over the place. My father just knelt down and that's what he told me when I became conscious again. He said he prayed, said, God, you took my first son. That's why I named this one Chinedu. Ositadimma Chinedu. So 3 names. Chinedu, God is my guide. Ositadimma Odibalubo, meaning if he starts being well. That's why anytime you see an Igbo child go by the name Ositadimma, it means he had lost 1 or 2 elder siblings to death. That's what many people don't realize, but you can ask that question anywhere. So the next one is Ndubisi, which means life is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So he said, if you spare this one, I will give him to you. Whatever you want to do with him, you can do.
Oh my God.
So I ended up at the General Hospital in Kafanchan. And by the grace of God, the doctor looked at me and said, we can't treat this case. He's not going to make it. If he survives till morning, any available means of transportation, take him to Jos, where there was a specialist hospital.
Okay.
And there was also a pediatric section there. So the next morning, that was when I regained consciousness.
Do you remember the year this happened?
Did I?
Do you remember the year this happened?
October 25th, 1962. Yes. October the 25th, 1962.
Interesting.
So I recovered and I just recovered from the bed before they now made the arrangement to ship me to Jos. I saw my parents crying. All of a sudden, they said, he's awake. I said, why are you people crying? Papa, Mama, why are you crying? They said I fell down and hurt myself so badly. And they said I was dead. I said, no, don't think that. I'm not going to die until I do whatever God has created me to do. That's what I told them. And after saying that, they said I slipped into unconsciousness again. And they became frightened. But by the time they now made the arrangement, because there was no passenger train going to Jos, but the next available train was a goods train. They put me in what they call the guard van, that red van that used to be at the rear end.
Yes.
And then, spread something for me to lie down and sleep all the way to Jos. I didn't even know anything until we got to Jos. Eventually, when they attended to me, I regained consciousness again. I was slipping in and out of consciousness. Maybe because of that brain, I may have had concussion,
Yeah.
So the doctors eventually, when I now regained myself and I could converse, intelligently discuss with my parents, the doctor called my parents and told them, the first time I met an American medical doctor, lanky young man, very tall, very handsome, white American, and he called them and said, please, I don't want to discourage you, but don't be too optimistic about this boy. It's possible that he's having internal, bleeding, and we can't guarantee that he will make it. But even if he survives, it is most likely that he has sustained enough brain injury. I'm using the word of the doctor, as my father told me, that I had sustained enough brain damage to render me mentally incapacitated for life. That was what the doctor told my parents.
Right.
My parents said, God forbid, not our son, all that, So before then, I had a spiritual encounter because I kept asking my parents, how do I know I'm going to heaven? And, when that thing happened, they now believed that I had premonition I was going to die. And then my father gave me a Bible that was given to him when he was baptized in 1937. It was when I read St. John's Gospel there that my eyes were open. I said, yes, I can be saved. I believe I take Jesus Christ as my savior. Few months after that, this accident occurred. So they felt maybe I knew I was going to die. So when my parents said, is that all? They said, well, if this boy survives and is not brain damaged, you can regard him as a living miracle. My parents were stunned. A few days, I was walking. I was talking intelligently. There were no incoherent words coming out of my mouth.
Oh my goodness.
My deepest concern, what about my siblings? What about school? Look at how many days have I been without going to school? It means some people are going to do better than me. They kept telling me, quiet. It's not everything. It's not about being the first position. So, but that was an encounter I felt younger people need to know that I didn't give up. God didn't give up on me. My parents didn't give up on me. I didn't give up on myself. But I had to pass through all this and yet emerge as an adult. In addition to that, I was asthmatic. Asthma dealt with me. It was actually because of asthma that I didn't play soccer. I only played either right fullback or right halfback.
Wow.
Because I didn't need to be running around dribbling everybody, but I made sure you didn't cross me. You didn't touch me with the ball. So I was playing defense, because of asthma, I now moved to goalkeeping. Goalkeeping, something drove me out of goalkeeping. My immediate younger brother was better, so I went back to right halfback or right fullback. Those were in primary school. So I now, at the end of that thing, my parents were worried. Should they allow me to go back to school? What if I go and fail? Then they pleaded with the teachers, since I insisted on going back. Allow him, but please he doesn't have to take the exam, even if me repeating class. I said, me repeat class. As God will have it, I took the exam. I was first at the end of that whole thing. And my parents, look, that day, when the result came out, my parents were so excited. We gave Thanksgiving at the Holy Trinity Church, Kapancha. I've never seen till today. I haven't seen a ram as big as the one my parents bought for that Thanksgiving. I've not seen one. It was almost like a cow,
Interesting.
But that was how God saved me. But the aftermath of that is I have had tinnitus. Americans would say tinnitus or something, ringing in the ears ever since then. I am deaf to high frequency sounds and deaf to low frequency sounds. So mid-range frequencies I can hear. And that's the reason after that time, the only way I could really hear very well in class was sitting in the front of any class I am. So I can read the lips of the teacher. So as God would have it, it didn't affect my studies. I could read people's lips and so on. Eventually, I started hearing better. But till today, I still have that problem. I've never passed any hearing test. And there are telephones I can't use because I will be sitting here and talking with you. My phone will be ringing. You'll be drawing my attention to it. I will not hearing it because of the frequency. And my children will come from upstairs and say, Daddy, your phone is ringing by your side. But no, most phones are not like that. So that's not a major drawback. But I ended up, they transferred us to Port Harcourt, where I attended Municipal Council School. They used to call it Township School, Works Road, Port Harcourt. I made distinction in for first school living certificate, in spite of all kinds of health challenges, and then eventually passed. I was one of the 21 people who lived in Eastern Region then, published as having passed the entrance examination to King's College, Lagos. I think we are 110 in the whole country then. But my father felt that I couldn't go to King's College because of asthma and the fact of that my health was so fragile. He said if I died, the way the train, the railroad, railways work, we will have to ship my corpse all the way from Lagos to Kaduna Junction and then start shipping it back to the east. So he said, no, you go to a school in the Eastern region. That was how I ended up in Government College Africa, for which I'm most grateful to God. About the greatest educational experience I've had in my life was at Government College Africa, Government Secondary School Africa. I'm so thankful to God. And I did excellently well there too. And by the grace of God, got scholarship. Like I said, I'm very highly motivated.